Have you ever wondered how money moves in and out of India? For studying abroad, for foreign companies setting up shop here? Well, it's all governed by one landmark law, the Foreign Exchange Management Act, or FEMA. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some new rulebook. It was a complete revolution in how India viewed its economy, like prying open a locked vault and replacing it with a managed open gateway. Let's unpack how that incredible shift happened.
To really get what a huge deal this was, you have to look at where we came from. On the left, that's the old guard, FEMA, from way back in 1973. Its whole reason for being was to hoard foreign money. The approach was super strict, regulation and control. And if you broke the rules, that could be a criminal offense. I mean, seriously. But on the right, you see the world under FEMA from 1999. The goal completely flipped. Now it was all about promoting and facilitating trade. The mindset went from rigid control to flexible management. And those offenses, they were decriminalized, becoming civil matters. It's just a massive night and day difference that really captures India's economic unlocking.
So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to jump in a time machine and understand that massive switch from FERA to FEMA. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the act itself. After that, we'll meet the key players who actually manage the system, and then see how it all holds up in the real world with some pretty high-stakes case studies. Finally, we'll wrap it all up with a neat and tidy study guide.
First up, from FERA to FEMA. So why did India feel the need to completely tear up its old foreign exchange rulebook and write a new one?
This timeline really tells the whole story, doesn't it? FERA was born in 1973, when India's economy was very much closed off. But then, 1991 happened. India started opening its doors to the world. And suddenly, FERA felt like this giant, rusty anchor holding back a modern, fast-moving ship. By 1999, it was out, replaced by FEMA, which was built for a liberalized market and designed to play nice with the World Trade Organization. And here's a crucial point. FEMA didn't just open doors for business. It also laid the legal groundwork for fighting financial crime, which directly paved the way for the Prevention of Money Laundering Act a few years later.
So what actually changed? Let's dive into FEMA's core features and really understand the new philosophy behind India's foreign exchange. Okay, this slide right here is basically FEMA in a nutshell. The biggest thing to get is that huge mental shift from strict regulation to flexible management. That simple change in wording had massive effects. For one, it decriminalized offenses. For another, it gave the Reserve Bank of India the power to adapt the rules on the fly. Now, to manage all this, FEMA set up a clear structure. All transactions had to go through official authorized persons, and they were split into two big buckets: current and capital accounts. We'll get into those in a second. And finally, to keep the economy stable, it made sure exporters brought their foreign earnings back home. And look at this. This is straight from the source notes. It's not just our interpretation. It says it right here in black and white. FERA was all about regulating reserves, while FEMA was designed to match a liberalized market policy. This one little note just perfectly sums up the entire idea behind this law. So, about those two buckets I mentioned, current and capital. Think of the current account as the stuff of everyday life: paying for imports, your university tuition in another country, sending money to family, going on vacation. All that is generally permitted. Then you have the capital account. This is for the big long-term stuff, a foreign company buying an Indian factory or an Indian investor buying property overseas. Those transactions are watched a lot more carefully by the RBI. This separation is the genius of FEMA. It's how you open up your economy without losing control. Okay, so who exactly are these authorized persons that FEMA keeps talking about? Well, let's meet the official gatekeepers of India's foreign exchange. Think of it like a pyramid. Right at the top, you have your Category I dealers. These are your big banks, the heavy hitters. They can handle pretty much any transaction you throw at them. A step below, you get more specialized players in Categories 2 and 3, like the Exim Bank, which is laser-focused on trade finance. And at the ground level, you have what are called full-fledged money changers, or FFMCs. You'll find these guys everywhere, even at the post office, and they mostly handle currency for things like tourism and business travel. All right, enough theory. That's all great on paper, but what happens when these rules get put to the test in the messy, complicated real world? Let's find out. Now, before we get into a case, you have to understand this legal principle. This quote is everything. The huge question that was hanging in the air was, does FEMA apply to companies outside India? Could a foreign bank making a deal in another country be held accountable if that deal impacted India's economy? And the courts delivered a huge, resounding yes. This was a landmark decision that stretched FEMA's authority way beyond India's physical borders. And the Standard Chartered Bank case was the perfect test of this principle. So here's the play-by-play. The bank's branch in Mauritius lent over $55 million to some foreign companies. That money was then sneakily channeled into India to buy up shares in a local bank, all of it done without a single approval from the RBI. Standard Chartered's defense was pretty simple. Hey, we're a foreign bank. This is a foreign deal. FEMA doesn't apply to us. But the court completely disagreed. The message was loud and clear. If your financial games have ripples in the Indian market, you have to play by India's rules. Period. And just look at the consequences. We are not talking about a slap on the wrist here. Standard Chartered Bank was hit with a penalty of 100 crore rupees. The director involved? 35 crore. Even the Indian bank that got caught in the middle was fined 17 crore. This sent a shockwave through the financial world, showing everyone that while FEMA might be a civil law, it has very, very sharp financial teeth.
And don't think FEMA is just about old-school banking. It's constantly evolving. Just take a look at a more recent case involving the BBC. The allegation there was about violating the 26% cap on foreign direct investment for digital media. This case is a perfect example of how FEMA is the main tool regulators use to manage foreign investment in all sorts of modern, fast-moving sectors like digital news.
Okay, let's bring this all home. This last section is your FEMA roadmap. These are the absolute essential takeaways you need to have locked in. So here it is, your final cheat sheet. First, the big story, the huge leap from FERA's regulation to FEMA's management. Got it? Good. Second, remember the change. Criminal offenses became civil offenses. Hugely important. Third, know the players. The RBI calls the shots, and the authorized dealers are the gatekeepers. Fourth, what's the goal? Not to hoard cash, but to make global trade easier. And finally, the big lesson from the real world, break the rules and you'll face some massive financial penalties.
And that brings us to the big, final question.
Look, FEMA was a genius piece of legislation for the India of 1999. But today, we live in a world of crypto, NFTs, and instant global cash flow. So what's the next great challenge for this landmark act? How it adapts to this crazy new world will pretty much define the next chapter of India's economic story. Thanks for watching.